Okay, welcome everyone. Shannon, will you look at the question that just came in the box and see if we can do anything about that? We'll go ahead and get started. I just want to make sure that we got our Nearpod situation. Is anybody else having problems connecting? Feel free to.
There are 17 people in the Nearpod. I'll put the link in the chat box again.
Good. Awesome. Okay. And then my lovely co-hosts, if you'll watch the waiting room and make sure that people are coming in, that'd be lovely. Okay. Welcome to our meeting today. Thanks for joining us and spending Friday with us and Hallows Eve. It's great. I hope you guys have some fun and safe plans planned for the weekend. So this morning, we're going to be talking about the math early learning standards. And it will be myself and Shannon. So if you don't know who I am by now, you must be living under a rock, but I will introduce myself again. I'm Jessica Smith. I'm a preschool specialist at USBE. I've been with the agency for a little over 2.5 years now, and it's been great. And I'll let Shannon unmute and introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Shannon Olson, and I've been at the state board for almost 4 years. I serve as both the elementary mathematics specialist and the gifted and talented specialist. I mostly over K-6, but I get to collaborate with preschool on math, and that's really fun for me. I'm excited to be with you today.
And we're so happy to have her. I'm happy to have our math expert with us. So just some reminders of some expectations for our virtual meetings. When you're talking, please make sure that your video is on. It just helps to get the message across, and it's nice to see your face. Please make sure that you're staying on task and that you're minimizing distractions. So turn your phone off, try to limit interruptions from those that might be in your house as well, and just focus on this today so that you can get the content. Make sure that your microphone is muted unless you're speaking, and then use the chat box for questions or comments that are on topic. So what we're going to do first is allow you guys to kind of get to know each other. So we're going to put you in random breakout groups with 3 or 4 of you, so we can kind of have the opportunity to continue to get to know others that are in the preschool community. So in your breakout groups, we want you to introduce yourselves, discuss what your greatest hopes are for this school year, what are your greatest concerns for this school year, and what is your favorite thing about fall. So those 4 things, again, introductions, greatest hopes, greatest concerns, and then your favorite thing about fall. So I will open the breakout rooms. How many participants we have? 60. Okay. Okay, so make sure that you hit accept, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, I think everyone is back now. I hope that was nice to kind of talk with others and hopefully see that they're feeling some similar feelings, and also talk about the fun of fall. Again, make sure that you're muted if you're coming in. And then I just wanted to make a note as well that we are recording this so that we can use it in for future trainings, as well as it will be provided to you guys if you would like to go back and review. And then just an additional note, in the Nearpod, we're only having like 30 participants, but there's 64 here. So please make sure to log into the Nearpod. It's expected that you're in there so that you can actively participate. And Shannon just posted it in the chat once again. So if you're looking for it, that's where it is. Okay, so on to the next slide. I just want to review the goals for today. So we want you to have a better understanding of the math standards than you did when you came. Be better able to identify and describe effective practices in preschool math instruction. And we want you to have started to design your content, your training that you're going to return and give your staff. And then we want you to develop a plan to follow through with staff to ensure implementation. One way to integrate would be coaching or PLCs, so keeping that in mind as well. Okay, so in the Nearpod, we have a poll where we want to know how familiar you are with the new preschool math standards. So if you will submit your answer here, and then we'll look at the answers, the results.
Can you put the link to the Nearpod again in? Sorry, if we like log,
Yeah.
I had to switch devices and then it doesn't show the tab or the chat. Thank you.
Yep.
Like we've got about 2/3 of us in the Nearpod. So if you're not in, just try to click on the link in the box. I see a couple of us saying it might not be working. It'll be okay. We have links to some of the resources you'll need to see that we can also throw in the chat box, but you won't be able to interactively participate in the polls and collaborative boards if you're not in the Nearpod. So there shouldn't be a code if you click the link in there. I can type the code as well, but if you just click directly on the link, you shouldn't need a code. And then if it's asking for something beyond that, you would just put your name in. Okay, it looks like we've got 50 of us in there now, so awesome. Thanks for joining.
Shannon, let me know when you're ready to share the results. Well, there we go. Okay, so you can see here that about 50% of us are somewhat familiar with the standards. 25% very familiar. We have 12 of you, 12.7% didn't answer. 10% unfamiliar, 1% are extremely familiar. I'm guessing those are members of our writing committee who helped write them. And we don't have anyone that says that they didn't know that there was new standards, which is great. Hopefully that message has gone out. This is totally great. I'm glad that you guys are somewhat familiar or very familiar. It's not like you guys have anything else to focus on this year. So it's great that you guys have taken some time to look at them as well. And again, just a reminder, full implementation of the new standards is not expected until the 2021-22 school year. But we want to make sure that you guys are working to phase into them, so it's not just a drastic change come next school year. Okay, so we'll move on. So we have another question here. So we want you to submit some answers on what excites you about the new standards and what do you hope to gain from today's meeting. So if you'll, in the Nearpod, submit those answers, that would be great.
see a question in the chat box. Jessica, you can answer it, but my understanding would be that you're not expected to use the new standards until next year, but you're allowed to use them right now if you'd like to.
Absolutely. So this year is kind of like you get to use the old or the new. If you want to, phase content areas like focus on ELA and then focus on math for a few months while you bring them on, but you're totally okay to tie new or old standards to IEPs this year. And Shannon, I'll just wait to hear from you on how the results are coming.
All right, see some of us, I'm sharing their answers. I'll just share a couple so you can see some of your colleagues' answers. More user-friendly, excited to look at them more in depth. I'm excited about the vertical alignment. It's helpful to set goals. Great. Looks like everyone is actually just really excited about the standards themselves and then really looking forward to learning a little bit more about them today. So
awesome. Okay, I will turn the time over to you, Shannon.
Great. So we are going to have an opportunity to dive into the standards. So if you would like the standards to pop up in a different window, you can click where it says Math Standards. I'll also throw that link in the chat box. But on the next slide, it's actually going to open in the Nearpod for you to see the standards. So you can see there's a little window that says open here to see the standards, and you can actually go look at the standards. So we're going to have just about 5 minutes for you to explore the standards on your own. So as we know, like some of us are familiar, but not as familiar as we'd like to be. So just a reminder, this is the math section. It might be a little tempting to go look at other standards, but right now we're focusing on math. But if maybe you might be more familiar with the 3-year-olds, but you want to become more familiar with the 4-year-olds, or maybe you really want to look at the counting and cardinality strand. Or so this is just a time for you to take 5 minutes to look at anything you specifically want to learn more about the standards. And when we come back in about 5 minutes, you'll have an opportunity in a Collaborate board to share something that stood out to you about the standards with the whole group. So I will again put that in the chat box if the Nearpod is not working as easy for you, but you should be able to just click on the Nearpod, see the standards. You've got about 5 minutes to explore on your own. All right, thanks so much for sharing your ideas. Would anybody like to unmute and share a theme that you're noticing that's coming up?
Again, one of the biggest themes I see is just the side-by-side comparing, keeping 3s and 4s close so you can see the next progression of that step.
Great, thanks for sharing that. Anything else that someone else would like to share that you've noticed?
I liked how there's just an obviously natural progression from the 3-year-olds to the 4-year-olds. And that works really great for when you're a special education teacher and you're working on skills that they may not have yet. And so you can kind of step back and see what they do. And then it's easy to kind of find where they're missing and be able to work on that.
Any other thoughts?
This is Annette. I didn't get my video going. Okay, I like the very beginning where it says adults support learning in mathematics when they, because this is the incidental learning. This is the applying everything to their real lives. I just love that little section.
Great. All right, thank you all so much for your comments and also for your ideas on the collaborative board. Sounds like there are lots of things you're excited about the new standards.
Okay, so we're going to do kind of the same activity, but with the strategies and activities documents. So if you, just as a reminder, these are documents that are housed on UEN, in our previous standards, they were in the same document, but it got really kind of confusing as you'd have the standard listed on one page and 4 pages later, you were still looking at activities for that, but the clarity on what standard it was tied to was lost because you were pages forward. So they're housed on UEN, they're separated by content areas. So if you go to preschool.uen.org, that's where they're located. Again, in a second, the Nearpod will guide you there. So you don't have to do it right now, but just keep that in mind for the future. We're gonna let you review them and again, provide feedback on what you noticed there. I just wanna remind you that in the strategies and activities, you'll see the 3-year-olds listed, and then you'll see the 4-year-olds. And in the 4-year-olds, there'll be some activities that are highlighted purple. That's to let you know that those are new activities that weren't included in the 3-year-old standards. So those ones that are highlighted in purple are really more focused on those 4-year-olds. They're developmentally appropriate for the 4-year-olds. All the 3-year-old activities are still listed because they're still developmentally appropriate for 4-year-olds as well. So, so just again, remember that we're going to ask what you noticed when you come back. So we'll give you another 5 minutes to scroll through the math strategies and activities. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the Collaborate board. So again, just enter your thoughts here on what you noticed while looking through the strategies and activities document. And what you find useful, and what you appreciate, and then we'll share out. I love what I'm seeing here. I love that there's some new ideas that it will be helpful to newer teachers to implement the standards. Again, if anyone wants to unmute and identify some other things that they're seeing on this list.
Jessica, I just like how so many of these activities are just easy to integrate all throughout different activities. You know, they're playing with blocks during free play time, and you can do tons of these questions with more and heavier and lighter and taller and numbers, and you're just, it's not like, okay, kids, now we're having a math lesson. You know, you can integrate so much of this in all different areas of the day.
Yes, so true. And I say this a lot, but with preschool, we only have them for a limited time a day, most times half a day, and usually just a couple days a week. And so we need to make sure that we're taking advantage of every opportunity we have to provide that instruction to them. So I agree. I think that it's great that we can look at these activities and incorporate them. So again, these are located, was someone else going to say something?
Yeah, it's Janae. I was going to say, I really like having the summary, the general activities and strategies for each strand. I mean, those are just a list of simple things that, you know, you could do, like you say, at any time. I think that's a really valuable piece.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to add the link again. I think Shannon already did. Well, let me add it. I'll add the preschool UEN page because it is helpful. So let me get exactly to that strategy and activities page. Again, they're not located on a USBE site. They're located on the Preschool Pioneer page. I saw someone saying, I can't wait to get my hands on these books. Unfortunately, we're not printing the strategies and activities, but you're more than welcome to print them yourself. So this link that I'm throwing in the chat right now, you can see that they're all listed there for all of the different content areas. So hopefully that'll be a useful tool and help teachers implement. And we hope that it's clear which activity goes with which standard now. Okay. Okay, so this is something I wanted to cover. So these are key literacy and numeracy essential skills for preschool. As we've been working on the school readiness grants, it became apparent that we really needed to focus on these. These are indicators of later academic success. So if a child is successful with these skills, they're more likely to be successful in the rest of their academic career. We don't want to say they're also aligned to the PEEP and KEEP assessments. So as you look through these, they should look familiar and should be things that you're already doing in your classroom. We do a lot of this, but they really kind of are the major work of the grade. There's plenty. We don't want to disregard the other standards, but these are skills that you should be focusing on frequently in your classroom and giving students frequent practice at these. So we just wanted to provide this to you and help you also focus on that. Okay, we've been sitting here for 45 minutes. We're gonna give you a little bit of a break just because virtual trainings are hard. So let's do 10 minutes, stand up and use the restroom if you need to, take a drink, walk away from the screen and let your eyes see other things for a second, and then we'll see you back at 9:55.
All right, welcome back from your little break. If you have your camera off and you're able to turn it back on, we'd invite you to do that now. All right, we are going to next jump into looking at effective teaching practices in math. And so we want to be really clear that the state board is responsible for sharing content standards that we're expected to have students learn. And the state board is not responsible for pedagogy or specific instructional strategies. However, we would still like to share some evidence-based practices in math, but know that these are not part of the standards, but they're evidence-based ways in which we would recommend to implement the standards. So we are going to have a minute to look at Nctm's effective teaching practices. And we've also made a preschool adaptation. Can everyone else hear me? I see a chat box. Okay. Wendy, maybe work with your microphone or your speakers. Okay, so so Nctm is the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, and they have published effective teaching practices that are really designed for like K-12 instruction. And we have made an adaptation for preschool to see what those would look like. We're going to have a second to look at them. Then we're also going to watch a video of an example of instruction and have an opportunity to record evidence of some of those practices in action. So here is the PDF of the effective practices that we have modified for preschool. It's also in the participant folder if you need to access it that way. But we'll just give you about 2 to 3 minutes to look through this list. And again, think about what is something that you are noticing about this list. What stands out to you related to these practices? So it'll take about 2 minutes for you to be able to look at those. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite you to throw something into the chat box, or if you would like to unmute yourself, you're welcome to do that as well. But just anything that stands out to you about these practices, or what makes these practices specifically effective in teaching math. So I'd love to hear your thoughts either in the chat box, or if a few of you would like to unmute, or we'd be happy to hear your thoughts as well. I see a few ideas coming in the chat box. All right, I see a lot of comments coming through about like who is doing the thinking. The students are doing the thinking rather than the teacher doing the thinking for the students. I see a lot of comments about productive struggle. That word is a very interesting word because when we hear struggle, sometimes it can sound a little scary, especially for young children. But notice it says productive struggle, not frustrational struggle. And so it's putting those supports in for students so that they can be allowed to grapple with ideas and think and problem solve, but within their within problems that are accessible to them. I also see a lot of comments about them being intentional practices and the role of the teacher changing to being a little bit more questioning and presenting problems to students. So thanks so much for engaging in that activity. We will be getting to work with these practices in just a minute. So we are going to watch a video and we're going to record evidence of the teaching practice assigned to your breakout group. So I'm going to show you the observation form that we'll be using. I will also put a link to this in the chat box in case you need to access it that way instead of in the Nearpod. So I think we have about 27 or so breakout groups, which you'll be with I think peers who you work with. Jessica can clarify that. So if you are in breakout groups 1, 2, and 3, you'll be looking specifically at goals in the video. So how is the video aligned to having clear goals, aligned to standards for the activity? If you're in breakout groups 4, 5, or 6, you will specifically be looking at how the lesson uses activities in which students do the thinking and problem solving. If you're in 7, 8, and 9, you'll specifically be looking for connections for objects, pictures, drawings, or symbols. And then we also have numbered the bullets. So for example, if you're in group 1, you can come here in front of the 1 and you can type your evidence there. And then there are bullets for 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, all the way through group 27. Do I have any questions about how we're going to use this form for the observation? Good. Okay. The form is going to go away from the Nearpod. It is in the chat box if you'd like to bring it up. But when we watch the video, I'd love for you to just think about, well, and I guess, Jessica, do they know which breakout group they're in already? Like what to be looking for?
So I'm going to put it in the chat right now.
Okay. So
it'll be a list of your program and then like what number of breakout room you're assigned to. And then you'll be self-selecting. So let me add it in the chat. And then last time we had some people that were not in a group but wanted to be put in one. So I will, you can see, I will probably hurry and be putting them in. So let's see. Okay, so so group room 21 will be Ada Brown, Taylor Dobson, Michonne Terry, Cheryl Priest, Jennifer Farish, and Mallory. Room 22 will be Annette Loveland, Tara Boswell, Michelle Monroe, Janae Parker, Alyssa Griffith, Allison Hunt. Room 23 will be Karina Golson, Bridget Cook, Audrey Thomas, Marcy Bowman, Vonnie Parkin. Bless you. Whoever that was. 24 will be Laurie Jorgensen, Tony Gubler, Rachel Kaur, Carrie Denning, Janet Miller, and then 25 will be Sammy Roundy, Nanette Matthew, Paige Furbush. 26 will be Adela Brazo, Amanda Nelson, Katie, and Sulkinia Otera. And then group 27 will be the phone number, which is 435-719-4739. And then Melinda Lyon and Shadek. I probably slaughtered that. Anyway, sorry for the confusion. I think we finally got breakout rooms figured out. So next time it'll be seamless. So but hopefully that was helpful. So I will open the breakout rooms and I'll also be watching them so that if you didn't get my information there, I will be sorting you as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica. So right now, I'd love for you to just look at what is your breakout group and then look at the teaching practice aligned to that breakout group so you know that that's what you're specifically looking for in the video. If for some reason, like you get put in a different breakout group or you weren't really exactly sure, I'm sure that you'll still see evidence in the video and then be able to participate in your breakout group. We would just love for you to know specifically what you're looking for before we show the video. So some of you will really just be looking at questions. Some of you will really be looking for that evidence of productive struggle. So right now, I'd love for you to just think, what is your teaching practice you're looking for? You can take notes just on like a sticky note or keep them in your head. And then when you go to your breakout group, that's when you'll get to discuss and debrief what you saw and then put your evidence into the observation form. Okay. So right now we're going to actually, I think I'll actually leave this up on the Nearpod, but I will share a different screen so that you can see the video.
My name is Natalie Gaxiola. I'm a preschool teacher and I work at Felton State Preschool. Today's activity is counting collections. Throughout this activity, children are practicing counting skills that they've acquired or are acquiring and developing. You guys ready to go to counting collections? Yes, okay, go ahead and walk to your table, get your chair. In today's activity, my co-teacher, Nctm, and I give children these little bags full of manipulatives. Each one has its own quantity, and the first task is to tell me how much you have in your collection. All right, Leo, can you count for me?
If you want to count it, you're gonna do this.
So children take them out, organize them, and count them.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
How many do you have?
Yeah.
9. Ms. Muñiz and I are observing the children, and based on what they're doing, we ask follow-up questions. Which of your group has the most?
I'm done teaching.
The purple, how do you know has more? With counting collections, once you get started, it becomes a part of your routine that is the same yet different every time I do it because the kids don't get tired of it. Can you count yours again for me?
1, 2, do it like that. 4, put that one on the left. 7.
Can you give me 2?
No, I see. No, I count them.
Okay, how many do you have left?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So how many keys do you have?
5.
5. If I give you one more, how many do you have?
12. 1, there's 12. 3, teacher, there's 12. He said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's always a challenge because you have children that are acquiring very basic needs in regards to their math skills, and there's other children that have developed a much greater understanding of math, and they can be exactly the same age, and you're trying to make sure that you address all their needs. Sophie, can you do me a favor? Can you come and work with Penelope? Can you help her count her collection? One of the strategies I use is to help their peers and to model for their peers, and they can support each other. So maybe you can give her a suggestion of how she can move them. And then, are you ready, Eden? All right, let's count together. Can you count with me? After that, we give them a piece of paper and we ask them to represent their collection. And on each paper, the goal is that the children show us how many objects they had in their collection now on paper.
He said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But he said it like that.
He counted really fast. Did he count accurately?
What?
Did he get the right answer? Can you double check?
1,
Okay.
2,
Can you represent for me?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Was Jareth correct? Yes, he was. How many do you have?
12.
Can you double check and make sure you have 12 tallies representing the 12 spoons?
12.
Do you have 12 on there? Okay. Oh, you traced each one, huh? So how many do you have on your paper?
This one? 2.
Learning about counting collections really taught me to stop and observe and build on what each child has. And it's taught me that not all skills come in a certain order. I've learned that these skills are being acquired as they are learning. And all these skills come at different times and in different orders. So I don't limit the kids. I give them these objects and let me see what they can do. How many did you put?
And the names right here. 2, 3, and then put brown like 7. Teacher, he's
Okay, let's count together. Okay, ready? 1.
5, 2.
Looking at where I started in the year with the kids and where we are now, Penelope comes to mind. Penelope had a very difficult time keeping track of her collections and even counting by rote. And there's times where she still slips here and there with a number, but with a simple follow-up question, she can demonstrate she can count 1 to 1. Can you count 1 by 1?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Teacher, he's done, teacher. Teacher, she's done.
How many do you have? 7. You had 7 cubes. Thank you, Penelope. She's come a long way. She's one of the younger kids in our class. So to see her develop that way is amazing. Yes.
This is 5 and this is 2.
After they've represented, we ask more follow-up questions to make sure that the number is accurate. How did you represent them? Circles? Okay. So how many circles do you have on your paper?
1, 2, 3, 4. I made my name.
And of course, what the children produce varies. And the follow-up questions that we ask are based on what the children are doing and where each one is at. How can we check to make sure that you have the right amount from here to here? You did all of them? Between this one and this one, this group and this group, which one has more?
Both of them.
Both. So that means they're tied, right? It's the same amount, so they're equal. I've applied a lot of the things that I've learned through counting collections into my teaching just in general. But I think that the biggest thing that I've taken away is that there is no limit, there is no place to stop. As long as I do it consistently and continue to ask follow-up questions, the kids are engaged. And if they're engaged in something, you get to learn so much from them.
All right. We will go ahead and have an opportunity to go into our breakout groups. And once you get there, you'll be able to work within the document. So I think we'll have about 7 minutes in your breakout group. Jessica will get ready to send you there. You'll have about 7 minutes to talk about what you saw related to your practice, and then also type in the evidence into the sheet. So we'll see you back in about 7 minutes.
And the breakout rooms are self-assigned, so make sure that you find the breakout rooms at the bottom of your screen and choose the right one. I will copy and paste the assignments again.
Right, it looks like everyone is back from your breakout groups. Let's just take a minute to debrief that experience. Is there anybody, you can either throw something in the chat box or unmute yourself, but I'd love to just hear, what was it like for you to go through that experience of watching the video and looking for a specific practice and recording evidence of that practice? So any comments on just the process, either in the chat box or feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, so I guess I'll go. I really like this practice of having something to focus on when you're watching a video or anything really, because it really helps you to narrow down. There's like a lot of things we can learn from that video, but because I was focused on this one thing, I was able to get a lot of evidences and see a lot of different things that I would miss if I was trying to just watch the whole thing and look for everything. So I really liked it.
Thanks, Wendy. All right, any other ideas? I see some comments about like the actual video itself and that you loved the practices in the video. And then I see some other comments about the observation. And we really want to have both of those lenses. One about what is high quality instruction and how can we implement those practices into our own practice, but then also how are we coaching the teachers that we work with and supporting them. And I love, Wendy, how you brought up it's different to focus on one practice versus all of the practices. And something I loved, like watching all of you fill out this form, is every single box was completely full of evidence. And so it shows that these 8 teaching practices can be used every day in every lesson. But when we're coaching teachers, we want to be careful not to expect them to do 8 things at one time. But we can really focus on 1 or 2 practices at a time, make sure that they're looking at evidence and how they can be able to like work on that skill set or that practice. And then once they have implemented it, then move on to another one. And definitely these practices interplay with each other. They're not done in isolation. If you have kids doing the thinking and problem solving, then it's likely there'll be some productive struggle. And it's likely that if they're doing the thinking, you're going to have some representations like counters and drawings and things like that. So there's definitely interconnectedness between all of them. But I love the idea of these are really high quality practices, but how can we focus on like 1 or 2 at a time to get our teachers there? And also observation, like it would be really overwhelming if all of us were responsible to look at all 8 in one lesson. So I love all of those thoughts and all of those ideas. I see some questions in the chat box about access to the video. Yes. The next thing this is going to go away. It's still in the chat box if you'd like to use this observation form. I believe the participant materials also has a blank form like this. So if you would like to duplicate that to do this activity with your teachers and have them look for evidence, we'd love for you to do that activity as well. All right, so we are going to share some resources with you. So we had a hard time picking a video today. There are several videos that are high quality. You'll have access to this Nearpod after as well. So all of those links will be available to you. But those are a few additional videos that we also felt like were high quality evidence of the practices. So just know that those are there again for you to be able to access. We also, not right now, but at the end of today, we have a resources page where we're going to share a ton of different resources with you, and you'll be able to see where you can find videos and where you can find other resources to support early learning of math. I did want to share something about Teaching Channel. So it used to be completely free, and about a year ago, they made it not free anymore. So you do have to get a login. For free, you can watch 3 videos, but that doesn't mean 3 separate videos. It means 3 times. So if you go in and watch that video again by yourself, and then you go show it to teachers, you only have 1 left. or if you show it to 3 groups of teachers, you're done with the free part. So just be aware of that. Like you can go show that exact video to teachers, but only 3 times. But the subscription is typically $10 a month or $100 a year. But I think they have a deal because of COVID that it's about $7 a month or $70 a year. So just know that that's where that resource came from. One of the videos, I guess I can go back, the top one from the Early Math Erickson Institute, that one is always free. So that's one you can always use for free, but the teaching channel videos, you'll either have to make sure you only watch 3. I guess you could have different teachers log in and all get accounts to watch them too, or you would need to get the account. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the time over to Jessica. And like I said, we'll come back to other resources again later.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about lesson planning. So some elements of a quality lesson plan should be that you have the standards reference, that you have learning objectives listed, what activity will be happening, what materials are needed for the activity, and then the differentiation and adaptation. Shannon, can you go back? So something that we've noticed while we've done monitoring is that the differentiation and adaptation has been missing from quite a lot of lesson plans. And so we want to make sure that they're being included. In preschool, we have a lot of turnover, and we also have a lot of substitutes that come in, and they're not always trained to do that scaffolding or adding those supports like the teachers are. So it's really important that teachers get in the habit of adding those to their lesson plan so that when there's new staff or just staff that doesn't have the training the teacher does, that they can reference those that differentiation adaptation supports and know what they need to do to help the student. Also, you want to make sure that the lesson plan is working for the entire team, not just the teacher. So if the teacher has a format that she loves, but it's unclear to the staff and they can't use it, then that's not going to work. We need to make sure that it works for the entire team. So on the next slide, you'll see what our activity is going to be. So because you guys are all leadership team and have plenty of examples, lesson planning, I wanted you to just pick 2 to 3 math standards and then walk through what the learning objective is going to be. You could pick what theme or unit you're doing, so how you're going to incorporate that theme to teach the standards. Again, what materials would be needed, and then what differentiation and adaptation you would add or be prepared to do. So then some additional things that you'd like to consider on the next slide. How does this activity teach the standards? How could other content areas be incorporated? We love integrating those content areas. Again, we have limited time with our preschool friends, so we want to make sure that we're taking the biggest advantage of it as we can and really making it meaningful for them. And then how would you incorporate those effective teaching practices that Shannon reviewed with you? So you're welcome. We're going to put you in random breakout rooms again. I've made them a few more groups so that a lot of you won't be alone this time. And then the next slide will be our lesson plan template. Because you're going to be with people from other teams, I would just recommend that you use this. You all can't edit this one document, so you're going to need to copy it and walk through it on your own. And so we will go ahead and do that. Are there any questions on the task? Just want to make sure it kind of goes around. So again, filling these out, and you can pick whatever theme you're going to be doing, what the activity will be, and you guys can pick 2 to 3 math standards to cover. So I will go ahead and open the breakout rooms.
I also put the document in the chat box if anybody wants to grab it there.
Beautiful. Yeah, so just make a copy and then you can edit it. You can have one person from your group share their screen in the breakout room so you guys can walk through the template. So I'll go ahead and send you there, and then we'll see you back in 7-10 minutes. Okay, I believe everyone is back now. Hopefully that helps you have enough time to wrap it up. Sorry for bringing you back early. So we're gonna go. I hope that was helpful and kind of helps you prepare to walk your teachers through the process. So the next opportunity we have on this next slide is a collaborate board. So I want you to reflect on that activity and how could you implement an activity like this for your teachers and what changes would you make? So feel free to start adding those in there. Give them a lot of time. Point taken. Got it. Well, I think that's especially true because you guys are the leaders. And so you guys are really good at this, but we have those new teachers that are learning. It might take some time. It might take them some additional time. I like a lot of the things that I'm seeing here. I love the idea of having them analyze student data first so that you can identify which standards they need to teach and which ones are already mastered. Again, we don't want to waste that instruction time. Giving them examples, showing them that they're already doing a lot of these pieces. So it's not adding something new. Model the activity once. Awesome. In addition, I would always, if they have a current lesson plan template that they love, they don't have to stop using it, but they do need to reflect on if it has those critical components and they can adjust it as necessary. Some other ideas I had were that you could have, if you're in person and you could have different cards with like just a certain number of standards so they're not being overwhelmed by the entire book. You could give them a theme on one of those cards that, they have a set of cards at each table and then have to plan a lesson around that. Would be great. Yeah, okay, I love it. Thanks, guys. I think you guys have some great ideas there. So yeah, consider if that's the way that you can do it. So now we're going to transition to Shannon and a Jamboard, which will be exciting. So I'll turn the time over to her.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your ideas around the lesson plans. So we also just want to think about what are effective activities and less effective activities to plan into lessons. And you, with your experience and coaching and knowing how to look for these practices we've been talking about today, have better ideas of what those effective practices are. Sometimes we see less effective activities in classrooms. And sometimes it's because we might have new teachers who really just don't know. It might be because we're looking at activities by Googling them or using Pinterest or Teacher Pay Teacher and finding things that might look fun, but are not necessarily getting at our learning goals. So we'd love for you to just think about what are the activities that are effective and less effective that you have seen, and ways that you might want, thinking about the effective side, things you'd like to encourage your teachers to do, and less effective things that you might encourage them to not do as much of. So how the Jamboard works is you just click on the sticky note and then you can type in the text and then you can actually click and move it to effective or less effective. So we'll take about 5 minutes or so for you to add some ideas on what you think might be effective or less effective activities. And specifically thinking about preschool math.
So I'll just add one example here to kind of get you going. While we were researching to prepare this, I found some articles on the Institute saying that a lot of times in preschool classrooms, we see a calendar, but it's really hard for students to understand like a group of 7, and that's really high. And so what's more effective is to do a linear calendar. So it's just one straight line, 30 boxes in a line. So they can see the numbers increasing and they can have groups on 5. So that's an example of a typical calendar would be less effective, but maybe a linear calendar would be more effective and more developmentally appropriate. And then we will copy this and put it in the participant folder for you guys to use, so that if you wanted to do this activity with your teachers, you could just present the activities that you see in a classroom rather than them coming up with them, and could sort them. So.
All right, it's so fun to see those sticky notes just flying all over the board. I love the ideas that I see here. I specifically, I'll call out a couple, like using only calendar time to count. I love that. It doesn't mean that calendar time is a bad time to count. It just means that like we need to be counting a lot of other times as well. Is there anything else that stands out to someone else?
I think we all agree worksheets bad, hands-on good.
Awesome. Right, I see tons of comments like that. So thanks so much for engaging in that. And I think like you with your expertise are really able to identify those effective and less effective activities. But thinking about your teachers and how can you really support them, especially our newer teachers who might not have had as much formal training, know how to look for those effective and less effective activities. So we just love to encourage you to keep thinking through that. I know some of you are still adding, but we are going to go ahead and move on. So the Jamboard is going to go away. All right, and Jessica is going to talk to us briefly about the professional learning standards.
Yes, so it is 11 and we want to give you time for planning. So I'm going to just briefly touch on these. So these are the professional learning standards that USBE has put out on if you really want to have meaningful professional learning opportunities for your staff where what they're being taught actually is getting implemented into the classroom. These things need to be considered. So these are the 8 areas. So if we go to the next one, we'll just be here for a couple seconds. This is the PDF and we'll send it out as, oh, sorry, I forgot this slide was here. It's fine. So this is the PDF. And so the first page here has the 8 areas with a little summary of what they all are. And then throughout the document, it digs a little deeper. So as you plan, you're probably going to want to look through these and consider if your lesson that your instruction that you're planning for your staff is including these elements. And so in order to help you do that, on the next screen, we have a worksheet that has those 8 areas listed and then just a table for you to enter what your plan is to meet that criteria. So how are you going to implement learning communities? What resources are you going to offer to them and provide? What data are you going to take to make sure that it actually is being implemented? So again, these are in the participant folder, I believe. I'll double check. But feel free to open up that and utilize that as you're planning.
All right, we also just wanted to share several resources with you related to preschool math. We won't have a ton of time to dive into them, but we just want you to know that these are here and available for you. So there are several web-based resources available that have activities, videos, lesson plans, research articles, tons of things. So we just wanted to know, let you know that these are the go-to places for early childhood mathematics. So just know that they're there. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with a lot of the resources, but hopefully there'll be some that are new to you that you might not be as familiar with. Also linking just to like national organizations and their statements and resources specifically related to early learning in math. We also included some book resources specific to early math. So some of these are published by the web resources above, and some are content-based, where they really dive into what is like the concepts and skills that students need to learn, and some are more about like the structures and systems in schools that need to change to support early math. So we just wanted to let you know that those are available. There are also some research articles that just mostly talk about the importance of addressing math in high quality ways at the early grades and how that impacts future learning. And then I will also go take those links from the videos that we used, and I'll throw them in here as well. So you can have those specific videos rather than just like the main website for you there. So just wanted to let you know that those are there. They're available. There are tons of great things, both for educators and families. I think for sake of time, we're going to skip this. We didn't give you a ton of time to dive through the resources, so we'll skip that part. And then Jessica will go ahead and give you your further directions.
Yeah, so we're going to give you the rest of the time to plan with your team. So just some things to consider. How will you keep your participants on track? Can you anticipate and remove some barriers that might be present for your educators that might keep them from getting access to the content or accepting the content? What support system will be in place during and after your training to, again, ensure that implementation? How will you continue to build on this content with your teachers through maybe PLCs or coaching or your monthly PDs? And then what data will be collected to ensure classroom implementation? So we'll go ahead and let you plan. If you're in the same room as your staff, you don't need to accept the breakout rooms. I will recreate the rooms real quickly. Okay, I believe everyone is back. So we just wanted to take a quick second to have any of you unmute and share out on how that planning went, if you're excited about something that you have planned. So feel free to share.
I'll share something.
Okay.
Jamie jumped into ours, and totally awesome, because she gave us the strategies, or the main strategies that were going to be essential. And she gave us the link to that, which I thought was extremely helpful, because you want to make sure that you're hitting those several times throughout the year. So I thought that was really, really important and a great tool to have.
Awesome. I did add those into the participant folder if any of you else want the essential literacy and numeracy skills. Anyone else want to share what you're excited about in planning the PD for your staff?
I think one of the things we talked about was just that we're on track, that we're doing it, that it's, I mean, we're pretty happy to keep our noses above water, not our heads, and that we're doing the best we can, and we feel like it's working for what we're dealing with.
Awesome. Great job. I love it. Yes, you guys all are great taking on all that you're taking on this year.
I think it's great that we have this year to get familiar with it before we have to fully implement next year. So I think that's helpful to have this time for our teachers and everyone to become familiar with it and utilize it, and then be able to fully implement it next year. So I think that's helpful.
Awesome. Agreed. That wasn't our idea. That's just how standards the standards process is the implementation year. But I think it is great, and I'm glad that we can provide this content to you guys and phase it, like we're phasing it in through the year as well. So I think that'll be helpful to teachers. Well,
to add to that, Jessica, I was just going to say, like, we purposely tried to make it so we were only doing 2 content areas across 4 times throughout the year, so that you could also slowly implement that with your teachers. And so when you're looking at aligning standards as well, like Jessica had mentioned earlier, you can do that with the content areas.
Yeah. Okay, well, we are 1 minute past time. I don't want to keep you longer. So on the next slide, you'll see our contact information again. If you have questions, thanks for coming. And then I am going to throw in a Google Doc into the chat. If you in the breakout rooms were not able to meet with your team, I was trying to do my best and match people up. But if it never worked out, if you'll put it on that Google Doc, and I am going to spend lunch trying to get them beautiful for our next session. So fill in on that Google sheet if you weren't able to get in a team, or if you are here alone but want to be placed with other people who are here alone so that you have some people to bounce ideas off of, feel free to do that. And we will see you back at 1 o'clock. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, everyone.